Good evening, everybody. So I was doing a little reading there, and didn't know I was tardy. Sorry, so sorry. So anyway, uh, tips. We'll get into some tipping, something I don't really know about, but when's it ever stop me about talking about things? Anyway, so tips. We'll get into some tipping, something I don't really know about, but when's it ever stop me about talking about? So I had something turned on. I shouldn't have had turned on. But let's get it back over to here. There. So, tipping. Tipsy. I'm hearing you twice. Yeah, I know. I was trying to do something about this phone conversation and sharing screens. So if I get a caller, I may have to do a little finagling to get it back to what it was. But I had the YouTube volume on. That was the reason it was on there plus delayed. So, tipping. I know I've said this before. It's getting to sound familiar to me. What started it was lunch. Yep, lunch. So we went out to eat at a fairly decent restaurant, and during lunch they have endless fries. Yeah, oh yeah, endless fries. So if you go to a place and it has endless fries, like this restaurant does, then you place your order, and it comes with all the lunch, comes with the lunch menu. So if you order off that, you get the endless fries. Everybody placed the order, and I said, while I'm waiting, go ahead and bring me some fries. Because, I mean, you just ask for them, they bring you a little old boat tray of fries. And so I get lunch with a side of fries and free appetizers that are fries. And so, buddy, you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong with that combo. But our waitress, very nice lady, wasn't really on top of her game. And she made some mistakes, and they weren't huge, and nobody, got sick or got anything dumped on them or anything like that. But that after lunch, me and the guy I work with started talking about tips. And so that started me thinking about maybe I ought to talk about tips. It seems to be, I won't say controversial, but it's open for discussion, right? So I was kind of distracted here because I was trying to find a picture. And somewhere, where's my Google stuff? That's not my Google stuff. That's my mail. That's my drive, and that's not what I want. I want my Google stuff. Where's my Google stuff? There it is. Photogs. All right. Okay. So let me show you what this is what I had for lunch. And I go here. I do that. I can do that. Hey, Robert. I'm talking about lunch. Can we do this? Does that make it any bigger on your all's end? Because I know I've asked this many a time, but did that make it bigger for just a little bit? So anyway, oh man, what was this called? That's macaroni and cheese with pork barbecue on top. Well, I guess there's mac and cheese, there's pork barbecue spread over the top of it, and then more cheese put on top, and then they bake it, and it's really good. So that's what I had for lunch. But just to mention one of the little things, when I got my check, it wasn't this, it was a mac and cheese burger that she charged me for. And that's what was on my bill. But everything on the lunch menu, I think, was $10.99. And I asked her, I said, is that the deal? Is everything just $10.99? And she looked at it. I said, because, it's just, I just want to make sure that, I'm not overcharged, undercharged, or whatever. And she goes, it's all the same. Don't worry about it. I said, fine, that's fine. So it came out to like $12.34, something like that. And I left a $2 tip. So my thought is, because I don't do math very well, was 10% would be $1.20. And so roughly 15%, add some, make it even $2, and then I can add that up on my check. So some people out there might be cringing. Some people saying I'm an idiot. Maybe all that's true. So we were talking about it, and the guy I was talking with, he didn't order off the lunch menu, so it was more expensive, but yet, he left a bigger tip, which is, if you're going by the percentage part of what you buy, then that should be fine. But we were talking about it, and he thought that tipping was something that only Americans do, and I didn't know if that was right or not. So I looked it up. Google says that there are other countries that do tip, but America is not the only one. According to Western Union, I don't know why, but anyway, Canada, Colombia, they have a tip 15 to 20% is common. Argentina and Mexico, Nicaragua, Peru, it's 10 to 15% is the norm. And most restaurants in Brazil, Chile, and Costa Rica include a 10% sit-down charge to the bill. Okay? Because I did read something else that if the tip's added to the bill automatically, then it's not a tip. And there is a restaurant that we go to sometimes for lunch that automatically adds it to your bill, and so I don't give any more. That they plainly put it on there. 15% gratuity is added. I don't add any more. Is that good? Is that bad? I mean, I don't know. So why do we tip? And one of the things that I learned, and I kind of knew this, but it's customary. It's not written down. There's not a law for it or anything like that. It's customary, and I don't know how you decide. Some people, I think it just, to me, is based on you want to reward someone that does a good job. So to me, that makes sense. To me, a lot of things are, people are motivated by positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. And I guess in a way, you add a tip to show that you are grateful, also called a gratuity, that you're grateful for good service. Now, should a person give good service without a tip? Yes, they should. It should be an internal motivation to do a good job, not because you're going to get a good tip, because you have the self-satisfaction that you did a good job, that you had a task, you did it the way it was supposed to be done, and you did it well. And you should take pride in that, but you should not expect a tip or gratuity. And if you do get one, then more power to you. If you can accept it. Some places it's not good to accept it. So, but we were talking about that. Did she do a good job? Yes. Give her a little money to show, hey, thanks. I knew it was kind of rough, but that's all right. Nothing was bad happening and everything. And I got fries, bottomless fries. Hey, Clell. And I gave a tip I thought was appropriate. So one thing I learned, and like I said, I did know back, and I was reading this. Let me see if I can find it real quick. This is on this. It's on this guy's blog or a lady's blog. I wish I could find it. Who it is? It's Linda, and it talks about in the 1960s, the U.S. Congress decided to a so-called tipping credit, which meant that the employer could pay the employee under the minimum wage if they earned tips. All right? So, is it shady? Are tips shady? In a way, I believe they are. So, can you tell I'm I got a little bit of a mixed thing going on with tips. On one hand, you do a good job, you should should have a tip. I mean, and I'm just using restaurants because that is the most common place, and I think everybody's exposed to that situation where you go to a sit-down restaurant and you have a waiter and a server and all this, and then you leave a tip. And so the restaurant owner could pay their servers less than minimum wage because they would get a tip to make up what it was or what they didn't get in the minimum wage, and maybe even more. But the flip side of that too is tips are taxable. So back to the restaurant and the tip is that, I don't know, let's say minimum wage is $5. So a restaurant owner could pay $2, which is under the minimum wage. But if the person that is making the $2 would get tips, then that was legal, right? So the waiter, waitresses couldn't turn them into the labor board or whatever and say, well, he doesn't pay me minimum wage. Well, the reason, that he can get away with that is because in the 60s, Congress decided to do this tipping credit. So, restaurant guy comes out ahead because he doesn't have to pay an hourly wage, which then calculates, I guess, into, the benefits and the workman's compensation, all that kind of payroll junk that I don't know anything about. So now he's getting a benefit. And if the waitress did a good job, she get a good tip. She did an outstanding job. Hopefully she would get an outstanding tip and theoretically make more than the $5 an hour minimum wage. So there were 6 of us at lunch, and I gave 2. I don't know what anybody else gave. So that would be, if we each gave 2, that's $12 for the time that she spent with us. Plus, hopefully she is making an hourly wage. She has to make some kind of hourly wage. And so if she were to do that at every table, not every table had 6 people. It was kind of a slow day. There was a couple at one table and 3 at another, and some out on the patio. Anyway, so she's hustling. She might make $20 an hour in that lunchtime. Because she's feast or famine. There's not always somebody there to eat, and there's not going to be tips. So anyway, what does anybody else think? I mean, I kind of asked around, and I guess, some people are for it, some people aren't. It's outdated, just pay everybody minimum wage. But part of what I know about tipping is, to me, a lot of it is, if I'm the server and I'm the front line with that customer and I do a good job and they give a tip, based on, let's say the hamburger's undercooked and a guy wants it a certain way. He doesn't go back to the dude flipping the burgers. He tells his server, and the server catches the blunt of it, right? They are the one that's the go-between. Now, if it comes back the second time, the server says, hey, let me get you a free soda. We're sorry about this. Is it okay now? She, does a really good job. He's happy. Hey, you overcome a problem. I'm going to leave you a good tip. Now, should they have to share that with the busboy, the washing dude, the dude that undercooked it the first time, the lady behind the bar, the girl that's sitting the people at the tables, if they got a hostess? She was the one that put up with that dude, whatever, made it right. Now, should all that just go into the pot, and at the end of the night, they divide the $100 worth of tips up between the 5 people? Or should the money stay with the server, the one that actually did the good deed that prompted a good tip? I say you earned it, you keep it. That's, not everybody should. I don't think you should. There should be a learning curve. If you're new, share the server that you're working under, being trained with, sharing their tips. You two now become one, and you share things. When you're out on your own and you're doing your own tables, working by yourself, you should be able to keep your own tips. That to me is only fair, but that's not the way it always is. So does anybody have any comments? If you'd like to call in, I got the number up. You can call in, and I'll try to get it to work, because I'm trying something different. When I run the phone call the last time, I couldn't share more than one screen. So I was sharing the audio from one tab. And if I wanted to share a screen, I tried to bring up another screen. I couldn't just, bring up a screen like this. And if you can tell across the top, I got lots of tabs open, because that's how I do my research and keep up the social stuff and all that kind of stuff on there. So I'm just trying something new. So if we get a telephone call and you can't hear the audio, then I'm going to have to rearrange all that. But so the article I was reading before, the lady talked about, like a lot of people, college, part-time waitress, waiter, making, this person said they ended up making on their hour salary money, or making $200 a month. But with tips, right, they were bringing home an extra $800 a month, which made it livable. So, the possibility of earning above and beyond minimum wage for a server that's good and gets good tips, I think might be worth the risk, right? So you work harder, you get paid more. You could be the best server in the world and only make whatever minimum wage is. Let's just say minimum wage is $10, because I don't know. Might be more. That's $10 an hour whether you wait tables or not. But if you're good and you wait tables, you could make well over that. Averaged out, well over that. But you got to work for it. So there's not even anybody. Is this thing on? Hello? Is that on? Can you hear me out there in comment land? Last thing Robert said was, that's why they deserve a tip. Hello? Anybody? I've been talking. Nobody else is talking. Is this thing on? So then they talk about, she goes in this article, talks a little bit about if you have a problem, how you should address it and all these other kind of things. See, it talks about valets, hairstylists, that kind of stuff. Like I said, I don't know who really is supposed to receive a tip. Ryan, I think everyone should make minimum wage, and if they're a good job, they earn tips. So you think they ought to get minimum wage plus tips. I don't think they should make a crappy wage because the restaurant expects you to tip. So that goes back to, the fact that the restaurant is saving money, right? If one of the restaurants said, okay, we're paying minimum wage, and if you get a tip, it goes to the restaurant. That you don't share in your tips because we're paying you minimum wage. That's what we're supposed to pay you. And if there's any extra money that comes through, then it's not for you, it's for the restaurant because we're paying you your full salary or your full hourly wage. And you only get the $12, $10, whatever it is. I don't think you would have a leg to stand on to say, well, it was my money, I made it, because they're paying you minimum wage. Or it'd be even worse, they could say, well, we're going like that. We're going to throw all the tips into the jar at the end of the night, and everybody down, to the busboy and the manager on duty splits it up. Everybody gets an even piece. So, you've got ladies out there, and they may do that still. I mean, I think there are some restaurants that do that, even though they're paying less than minimum wage. So Robert agrees basically with Ryan that you should get tips on top of the minimum wage, whatever the minimum wage is. Well, see, you're saying that the restaurant would want to give them tips, so that would incentivize them to do better. And that's true. I mean, they do get a reward for doing a better job, but you got to look at it from a business owner standpoint. Is, like I said, technically, if they pay their servers lower than minimum wage, they're saving money, and the tip that they would give the server doesn't cost the restaurant guy anything. Now, if you give it on a credit card, that's a whole nother beast, because you're not giving them cash money. So, but anyway, it's not costing the restaurant guy anything for that person to take home, $100 in tips at the end of the night. They still paid them their hourly wage. A good server could take $100 home in tips, and the restaurant owner sees no hit to his bottom line. So if he's paying that person $12 an hour and they still make $100 in tips, then that's good for the waiter or waitress. It's not good for the restaurant owner. So Well, there's another thing. People like to do a good job, like I was talking about in the first was Ryan says I think they'd only do enough to keep their job. Well, that's true, but there's still going to be those people. There's still going to be the server that does the minimum, and there's going to be people that feel obligated to tip, and they would still tip even if they've just got mediocre service. Or, you know, they don't get any tips. They hate being a server, and then eventually they fall out because, you know, they're not getting paid enough to stay in there. But if they're making minimum wage and they're doing a terrible, not really terrible job, they're doing an adequate job, but not enough to get big tips, then they can hang in there. It's minimum wage. They can make that, you know, working at, you know, Chubby Dubby's burger place, or they can make it working at, you know, a chain restaurant with servers. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know if there's a real good answer, but I see good sides on both sides of it. Yeah, that was what Debbie was saying, that they get taxed on them, and they're supposed to get taxed. They're supposed to declare their tips at, you know, as income anyway. Technically, you're supposed to be declaring your tips as income, and it is, you know, taxable, whether it's cash or card or whatever. Now, cash, which is something, you know, a lot of people don't carry anymore, you know, makes it easy for them to really do that. So, Robert, was that when you were making pizza deliveries, or you're working on the side, you know, at the place down the street, nighttime, kind of questionable lighting, you know? Ryan, buddy, you don't have to shout. Man, it hurt my ears with all that taxation is theft. But we were talking about tips. So that's what I thought I'd talk at the show tonight. Just because there's so many different thoughts on it. Yep. See, last time I went to a flea market, Debbie, they came around and I had to fill out a form. I'd been to a flea market before, years and years ago, and now they come around with this form you're supposed to be filling out and declaring, you know, how much money you made. It's, or, you know, regulations just strangling the little guy that wants to go out. You're just better off having a yard sale at the house, you know. So, but yeah, they're cracking down on flea market money, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's funny, you talked about flea market. The only really tipping situation I have ever been involved with uh, was when I was in high school. We had a science teacher that had an antique store, and he would go and take antiques to these, not necessarily flea markets, but to I call them exhibits. I remember working. We used to, and he hired high school guys to go and uh, move furniture. So we would get there early. And I remember going down to the Kingsport Mall one time, and they set up this exhibit in the hall, you know, in the mall in Kingsport, in the halls in the mall in Kingsport. But we'd get there early, and people would come, and we would unload their vans and haul all their stuff in and set it in their area and do all that stuff. And then at the end of the night, what they didn't sell, we would help them pack it up and move it back out and load it into their cars and everything like that. So we were kind of the back and forth. And, he paid us a few dollars an hour to come. And of course, I think he was setting this up, right? So, people were paying to have an area or a booth and so on and so forth. So he paid us a little bit to help. And then they would tip us. And so, we thought we made out like bandits. I mean, just a couple of young, 3 or 4 young guys that got energy running out of their ears, and we're moving. People going, "Oh man, you're doing such a good job." Hey, here's $2, here's 50 cents, whatever. And it's like, man, at the end of the night, it's like we got all kinds of money, and that was great. Of course, we didn't have to live on it, so. Yeah, Robert, kind of a roadie, local roadie. You just hired gun. We was hired guns. The gun show. But yeah, yeah, we did that a couple of times, and it was pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tipping is kind of strange. The one thing that I did read about a country, uh, Japan is a country where you should not tip at all, and it's actually offensive. Uh, and it just talks about in Japan, you don't pay at the table, you take it up and you pay at a cash register or at the bar, to the person. So the waiter, waitress is not in that transaction at all. Uh, like today, she brought us our checks, and in fact, there were 6 of us, and she didn't or couldn't keep up with who had what and who was sitting where and that kind of stuff. She just kind of stacked them up on top of each other in the center of the table, and we all went through them and said, "Oh, this one's yours, and this one's yours, and here's mine," and all that. And then we paid, and of course, most everybody paid with the card. One dude paid with the cash, but then she brings them back in the same deal. She just stacks them on top of each other, lays them in the table, and so we each write them out and put a tip on it, or whatever, and go about our rest of our day. But so yeah, that makes it more simple if you just pay your waitress. I remember, you would go to the register, but you always left $1 or 2, 50 cents, whatever year it happened to be, and depending on what decade I was in, you left 50 cents or 75 cents or $1, and you left it on the table, and you hoped that the busboy would come by, and if you left $1.50, that all made it to the server or whoever it was intended for, and he didn't keep 50 cents of it, give her $1, or vice versa. I say, Debbie says they didn't used to tip in Ireland in the 70s. It started becoming popular in the late 80s. And see, this, the one place that I was looking at said that it was brought over from England in the 1900s. Did I read that right? Well, look at this. How did the tipping get started was basically the lot of it. In the 1900s, rumor has it that the practice came over from Europe. The aristocrats, after their visits to Europe, where tipping was part of the culture, they wanted to seem more cultured at home, and so they started tipping here in the United States because it was, I guess, popular over in Europe. Now, I don't know how much, if any of that is true or not, but they did say that in the U.S., tipping is 15 to 20%, and I'd always heard 15. I mean, just like inflation on everything else, tipping has probably, gone up because everything else is going up. But I don't know. I guess tipping is kind of here to stay because people have come to expect it. I mean, it's a kind of double-edged sword. You know, if you go to a barber and he does a nice haircut, and it's like, okay, how much is your haircuts? You know, $15. And it's always something weird. So like $16. I don't know. I haven't had my haircut in a while. Uh, so that you always have money. You know, people come in with a $20 bill, a haircut 16, you got 4.5. Just keep it. It's a great haircut. I'll see you, you know, next month or whatever. But, you know, what happens if you say, okay, 16, 20, $4 goes back in my pocket. I'll see you in a month, man. Thanks for the great haircut. You think it's going to be as good the next time? Not. Right back here in the back, there's going to be a little spot, right? I mean, you know, that's what you think. Now, should he do that? No, he shouldn't, because why? You should take pride in your work and you do a good job, because it gives you the good feeling about yourself that, hey, I had a job, I did it the way it was supposed to be done, and I did it the best I could, and it was good. I did well. Tip or no tip. But could it happen? Why, sure. You know, you come in, I give you a good haircut, you don't tip me? Come on back next time. I'll give you one that you deserve. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of that goes around. Same thing if you visit a restaurant all the time. Quail wants to know about this bald people discount. Well, if you're truly bald, you don't even need to go to a hairdresser. You need to go to I don't know, somebody that polishes it, gets it nice and shiny. Well, musicians, they always have a tip jar at the table or at the piano, whatever. So tipping's everywhere. I hope it's spelled right. Does tipping have two P's in it? Debbie says it does. You know, I don't spell the best. I'd never be a spelling bee champion. That's it. I'm sure there's probably a big scientific word for people that can really spell good, like, you know, people that can do math or mathematicians. A spellmatician. Maybe there's a spellmatician out there. Well, I appreciate everybody coming in. Debbie, it's good to see you. You hadn't been around in a while. I didn't even make uh, accent jokes or try to do an accent, even though I've got the beard for it. Kinda. Got my cap on. They wear caps like this in Ireland. I've got a, what was that hat? It's wool. It's supposed to be an Irish gentleman's hat, but I don't know. It doesn't make me any more gentle when I put it on, so it might not work. Thank you for coming by. Like, share, subscribe, tell people, tell your best friends, tell your best enemies, everybody. I'm happy to see we've got more than 3 or 4 people of us. The flat cap. I don't know. I've got some of those. I don't know what you consider a flat cap. Maybe one day I could. I've always wondered what hats were called, because I've got the 2 or 3 of the build kind. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Like you always see in the old movies where the guy's driving the sports car with convertible down. He's got the English cap on, or the, I guess, the flat cap maybe. Got a couple of those. But this one's got a bill all the way around it. And it kind of looks like it should be creased or something, you know, like in the top, like a fedora or something, but it's just all real nice soft wool. It just kind of droops on your head. And so it wouldn't be a fancy cap. It would be something like you'd wear when you were drinking and you didn't want to worry about getting your hat crushed. So, but anyway, it's been 40 minutes. I'm over my allotted time. Thank everybody for coming by. Like tell your friends and stuff, so more and more people will come. And please call. I got a phone number. Look, where is it? I'm trying to do this fancy stuff and I can't do fancy stuff. It's coming to me. Wait. It's over here. There it is. Jeez almighty. How do I comb my hair in the morning? There it is. Look. Look. Call that number. I've got a number you can call in. Craig. There's Craig. First comment at the very that's all he can say is good night all. Night, John Boy. Bye bye. Thanks everybody. Till Monday. Bye bye. End broadcast.